Okay.
There we go.
All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to be solving the quadratics x squared equations by completing the square. Now watch and stop talking. Derek, stop talking. Okay, check it out. So first of all, step one. Okay. Move C to the other side. Okay, write these steps down. Okay, now I'm going to put a little star on that because sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you don't have to. And we're going to see that sometimes, okay? Step two, write this down. Put a little star because sometimes we don't do step two either, okay? But we're going to see why, okay? Divide out A, okay? And again, sometimes we don't do that term either, okay? If there's an A, okay? Step three, we will do always. We're going to take 1/2 of B and square that, okay? Take 1/2 of B and square it, okay? And then we're going to add that to both sides. Now this doesn't make anything to you yet, but it will when I go through the directions, okay? Step 5, factor and solve. Okay? Alright. Now before we do example 1, 2, example 1 and example 2 do not include the first two steps. Okay, so real quickly. Find the value of C. So we want to find the value of C. And if you already know it's 9, awesome, great for you, okay? But hold on, because if you don't know it's 9, let's see how the rules work, okay? So let's check it out. So if we use the rules, let's use these first three rules here. We take B. So A is 1, B is 6, and C we don't know, okay? You guys got it? So let's just say you don't know it's 9. Some of you already got 9 in your head. Awesome, that's really good if you got 9. But if you don't, take B. So B is 6. We're going to take 1/2. So if B is equal to 6, we're going to take 1/2 of 6. Okay. Well, half of 6 is 3, right? Agree? So you just take half of this number. It's just going to be 3. Okay. And then we're going to square that answer. Then we're going to take 3. We're going to square it. And 3 squared is 9. So let me go through my rules again. Here's my rules. Okay. Step 1. Here's my B. I got A, B, C. Now if A is 1. If A is 1, I didn't need to do that step there at all, okay? I didn't need step 2 because A is 1, okay? But here's B. B is 6. Everybody see it? Take half of that. Half of 6 is 3. Square 3, we get 9. We got it? Okay, now, so what is C in this case? C is 9. So we can rewrite this as x squared plus 6x plus 9, right? So we have to create the number. We have to create the number that allows us to factor this. See, we created the number that allows us to factor. So now we can factor this. I can factor this into x plus 3, x plus 3, right? And our whole goal, this is our goal. This is why we do it. We want to be able to write as x plus 3 quantity squared. This is the form we want today. We want to get to there. We want to get to x plus or minus some number quantity squared. That's our goal, okay? Now, we don't have to do 4 or 5 because there's no equal sign on this problem. Does that make sense? There's no equal sign, so we're done. Now, let's look at number 2. Same thing. There's no equal sign, so let's just do step 3 and 4, okay? So first of all, what is B? B is 14, right? B is negative 14. Everybody agree with that? Okay, so we got A is 1, B is negative 14. Everybody got that? Let's take half that. What's half of negative 14? Everybody agree? Negative 7? Everybody agree with that? And square it. Now, negative times negative is a positive. Square it. What do we get?
Positive 49.
We get a positive 49. So we're going to take this number and we're going to put it right there. So we're going to go plus 49. Okay, plus 49. And now that will factor, right? So all we're doing is trying to make it so it will factor. Trying to create a number that will make it factor. Okay, so, all right, I can factor this. x minus 7, x minus 7, right? We're just trying to make a number that will allow us to factor, okay? Because what we really want to do is rewrite like this, x minus 7 quantity squared. That's our goal. We want to get it to that point, okay? Not too bad. And some of you guys can see it already. You're not really doing it by the math. You're getting it in your head, right? Which is even better, okay? All right, now, 3. We're going to solve. So now we got to go back, and we got to go all the way up to step 1. So on this one, we're going to go back up to step 1, okay? Okay, all the way up to step 1. So what does step 1 say?
Move C to the other side.
So here's C, right? So we're going to move 7 over. How do I move 7 over?
Add 7.
Just add 7. So I get x squared plus 4x equals 7. I left a little spot there, didn't I? Because you guys know why I left a little spot there?
Can you move your...
Yeah. I left a little spot there, brought the 7 over, but I left a little spot there. And I left a little spot there because I'm going to put a number there, aren't I? Right? Just like we've been doing above, right? So, what's B? What is B?
2.
You're ahead of me. Yes. B is 4. Half of 4.
2.
Half of 4 is 2, and I squared 2, and I get 4. So, I'm going to take my 4, and I'm going to add that to both sides. You have to do it to both sides because you have an equal sign, right? If you're going to keep it equal, if you're going to add 4 here, you better add 4 here. You have to add it to both sides because you've got an equal sign. You got a scale. If you add 4 pounds to one side, you have to add 4 to the other, right? You got to keep it balanced, okay? So I've got it balanced. Now, will this factor? Heck yeah, it's a factor, right? So then I get x plus 2, x plus 2 equals 11, right? But I can rewrite that.
Is x plus quantity squared.
X plus 2 quantity squared equals 11, right? Now I want to solve, right? I want to solve. So if I have to solve, I have to undo the square with the square root, right? So we're going to square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. Okay? Because the square gets rid of the square root, right? So now I don't have an x plus 2 squared anymore. I just have an x plus 2, okay? Now, 2 answers, right? 2 answers. Yeah, I get plus or minus the square root of 11. Now, 11 is one of those unique numbers where you would get a really ugly decimal, so we're going to leave it alone. It's an ugly number, right? So let's leave it alone. And then the last step I'll do is go minus 2. Minus 2. No, because
negative 2.
I'm just going to go plus or minus the square root of 11 minus 2.
Yeah, there you go.
And there are 2 answers there. There really are 2 answers. One is square root of 11 subtract 2. The other is negative square root of 11 plus 2. And I'll write both answers. Okay, here's both answers. One is square root of 11 minus 2, and the other answer is negative square root of 11 minus 2. Those are my 2 answers, okay? And we could use a calculator if we wanted a decimal answer, but I like it this way. It's better because it's not an ugly number. It's not one of our ugly squares. Yeah.
So on a test, if you were to put a decimal, would it be marked wrong?
It depends on the question. If I say in rational root form, you'd have to have a square root, right? If I said round to the nearest hundredth decimal. Good question. Okay, turn the page. All right, so let's do this again. Okay, number 4. All right, so what's step 1 say? Let's flip it back real quick. Step 1, what's it say?
Move C.
Move C to the other side, okay? So, step 1. It's already been done, right? What's step 2 say?
Divide.
So I don't want a 2. I want x squared. Listen, I want x squared. I don't want a 2. I want
Divide it by
plain
2.
old x squared. So let's divide everything by 2. Everything by 2. So I'm going to get an x squared plus an 8x equals 6. Now I left a little space there. Do you know why I'm going to leave a little space
You're gonna
there?
add something.
I want to fill that space in with a 16, but I'll show you I'm going to get a 16 in a second, right?
Whole squared.
Okay, so step 3, what's step 3 say on your notes? Step 3 says half of b in square, right? So I know that b is equal to 8, not 12, not 16 more, but 8, right? Because we divided out. Half of that, half of 8 is 4, right? 4 squared equals 16. Okay, now, so my notes, take half of b squared. I did that. Then add that to both sides, okay? So, all right, I've got my 16. So I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to put a plus 16 here and a plus 16 here, okay? All right? Okay, and that'll factor, right? So bring this over here, so I'll have a x plus 4 equals 22. How am I doing? Okay, this is kind of complicated, but if you can do it in your head, it's even easier, right? X plus 4 squared equals 22, right? Okay, now I'm going to have to square root. It's all right, I can do that, square root, because the square root will get rid of the square, right? So the square root cancels out the square, and all we're left with is just plain old x plus 4. Now 22 is one of those bad numbers, right? Square root of 22 is some ugly decimal, blah, blah, 4.5, 4 point blah, 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 blah. So we're just going to leave it as plus or minus the square root of 22, right? Right, plus or minus the square root of 22. Okay. Now, if I then subtract 4, my two answers are positive square root of 22 minus 4 and a negative square root of 22. Subtract 4. There are two answers there, right? Okay, one would be if you want the two answers, square root of 22 minus 4. The other is a negative square root of 22 minus 4. But I like that way better. Yeah.
So when you put a negative with the square root, would it go outside of the
It has to.
symbol?
Right, such a good question. I like it when you're sitting there and you pay attention. You're a smart girl. I do. I love it because you're right. What you were looking at is like, if that's negative, we're in trouble, right? You guys agree? Has to be on the outside of it. So a great example is this, okay? I'm going to show you real quickly. I know it's filmed, but watch. Yes, a really good question. So check it out. Tell me what the difference is. Minus square root of 25 or square root of negative 25, okay? Look at these two. What's the difference?
One's inside.
One's inside, one's not.
This one has an
That can
answer.
be reduced
This
to-
has an answer.
That one doesn't.
This one does not. Good question. Has to be on the outside, right? And eventually we'll call this 5i, but we're not there yet, okay? We'll call it 5i eventually, but not today. Not today, okay? Not till next week, okay? Then we'll call it 5i. Next week, okay? All right, now, I like vertex form because if I look at this real quickly, guys, check it out. If I look at some of these, like this problem here, it's kind of like almost in vertex form, isn't it? Right? And if I look at like this one here, it's kind of almost like in vertex form, right? Or this one looks like it's almost in vertex form. So what we can do is we can change this problem into vertex form. So it's the same steps. Step 1, what's step 1 say? Step 1 say, what's it say?
Move zeros over. Another zero.
So I'm going to move the 3 over to the y. How do I do that?
Plus this.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a y plus 3 equals x squared plus 6x. Okay, how am I doing? Right, that's all I did. And I brought it over to the y. I mean, it's a y variable, okay? Okay, b. What's b? 6, right? So I'm going to take half of 6 is 3. Good, and 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9, right? And I have to add 9 here. Got to keep it balanced, right? I added 9 because I made the 9. So if you add 9 here, you've got to add the 9 here. You have to, or otherwise it's not balanced, right? Okay, let's see what we got. So I got a y plus 12 equals an x plus 3, or how about x plus 3 squared, okay? You all right with me skipping a step? X plus 3, right? X, I could squeeze it in there if you want. X plus 3, right? Now, if I bring the 12 back over, I've got y equals parentheses x plus 3 squared minus 12. Now I know what the vertex is. My vertex
Minus 12, positive 3.
is negative 3
Negative 3.
minus 12, right? That's my vertex. Opposite, remember? Opposite. Okay. Now, is this, if I take a look at this, how do I know if this is a vertex, a minimum, or a maximum? How do I know that?
It's a maximum.
There is a positive 1 right here. Is that a positive value? That's a positive 1, so it's got to be a minimum. It's a smiley face. If you graph it, right? It's a smiley face. Okay, so let's check out our journal, page 127, okay? We'll do that.